Coaching search, big issue. We know that David Teague's done a fantastic job as we sit here right now, the mid-season break, if you want to call it. We're not sure that David Teague is going to be the next coach. He might be. He might very well be. So let's dive a little deeper. Let's look into the stats. Let's analyse 4 candidates, and using Dan's system, Dan's numbers, mate. Let's go through one by one, starting with David Teague. Tell me what we've got here, and just run it through with me.
So we've got the breakdown of what Carlton's departments of strength. So a big thing we hear is the average age in average games. People are talking that we're a young side, inexperienced, trying to dispel a bit of a myth, and to see how complex our job is for coaches and if they've done something similar is the aim, to see if they could just hit the ground running, so to speak. So we look, now defence is probably where we are at our strongest in experience. 23.86. AFL average is around 24.
Okay.
So
we're right there.
Our backline is probably one of our strengths as well, you'd say. Judged it.
Probably deep there as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Now, our biggest concern is the average games is 74, but we've got 4 defenders who have played less than 10 AFL games. So that is kind of stuck with Thomas and Cade Simpson. So one of them goes, that comes down to, I think, about 40.
Right.
So because we're below AFL average.
Yep.
Which is a concern. And we can see the average player has a 2 rating in defence. So
as a TPI?
Yeah.
That's low?
Yeah, so the key defenders would be about 6 and the pockets would be about 2. So I'd expect to see a 3 there.
Could that also be because we've got a lot of young'uns like Tom Williamson and McCready who have played games and maybe not reached the high TPIs?
So you got Tom Williamson, he's negative 3.71, predominantly because he's played injured. So his base value at VFL is a lot higher.
Okay.
And you've also got Angus Schumacher, where it's projected, he's 0.97 with his projected ability at VFL.
Yep.
So there's a lot of question marks about, but I'd say that's a conservative estimate of where we are anyway.
Right.
So the midfield, though, is where I think our biggest concern is you find the oldest average ages in your midfield and your ruck department.
Yep.
Reason being, you need the experience.
Yeah.
We're exceptionally young. 22 is almost a TAC Cup midfield age, I'd expect. So, but strengths going forward is the average TPI strength is in the elite level. So we look at the depth of midfields in the AFL comp. Yep. It's actually 3.2.
Okay.
So we're right on that. So skill-wise, they're there. It's just the age-wise they're not.
It's kind of scary to think about what happens when, their average age is 25.
Projection is by 2021 we've got the best midfield in the comp.
Absolutely.
By a way.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, you think of that core nucleus of midfield, Walsh, Cripps, these are 24 and under players.
Yep.
So, and they're the 2 best we've got so far.
Okay.
And the only one really who's going to retire, Ed Kerner.
Yep.
Well,
maybe Murph.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a different topic. I think Murph's got a few more years in him. But
you'd say Stocker is going to be a ready-made replacement.
Yep.
And also DeLuca's been doing a lot of tagging work in the waffle.
Yep.
So another ready-made Ed Kerner as well, right in the rings, 24 years old.
Okay.
So strength all around.
Excellent.
Now forward line, you can see our TPI strength really strong for the forwards.
Yeah.
And that's
this is a strong number. Okay.
Forwards, because they mature so late.
Oh, so strong numbers relative to their age.
Yeah, so
got it.
At 21 years old is the average age. That's a very baby forward line.
That is a baby, especially for a key position, forward.
You look at the games as well, 30 play on average. And we've got like Fasolo, who's a 100 gamer in that list.
Yeah.
You've got quite a few experienced boys there. And then you look at our team, usually our starting 6 average 20 games.
Yep.
Which is really low. Our starting 6 forward lines is 20.
Yep.
So there's a lot of players who are making up the numbers there. But I'd say it's probably a low TBI strength, but relative to their age, considering a lot of them are 2-year players, super high.
What's the projection look like for them when they're 24, 25?
Well, it oscillates like Kerner. I did the numbers that in 2 years' time, he should be where Franklin is now. In his numbers.
Interesting.
So Franklin is a 13 TPI on average player.
Yep.
So that's scary. And McKay, he's really comparable to Josh Kennedy.
Yep.
So TPI reckons within 2 years he'll be the Kennedy influence.
Yeah. I was watching them last night too, and I just couldn't help but think every time the ball was in the air and Josh Kennedy was approaching the ball, he just draws the presence, and it's like these kids, they haven't got that yet. Once they're 26, 27, there's 2 of them. I mean, you maybe throw Mitch McGovern in there as well, but especially Charlie and Harry, it's
The big difference between Josh Kennedy and McKay at the moment is leads to marks.
Okay.
So that's where McKay needs to work.
Yeah, definitely.
Kennedy
Harry for sure. Harry for sure. Just with the naked eye, without having looked into the numbers, he's finding himself outpositioned a little bit.
It's about 6.2 a game difference.
Yep.
So you think you add that 6 to McKay, and he's averaging a goal and a half a game.
Yep.
He'll get to that 2.5 where Kennedy is in no time at all.
Okay.
Just needs to work on that. And then our ruck is probably where our strongest is here.
Yep.
We've got a lot of, I would call, hangers-on ruckmen.
Yep.
Very strong depth.
Yeah.
But why are Lobb and Phillips there? You've got to ask, because they're never going to play.
It's one of those situations too. It looks decent now in terms of experience, but it can turn pretty quickly, particularly if we don't. Because I mean, Cruz is out of contract, Loeb is out of contract, and Phillips is out of contract. So when you look at that, I mean, it could be a completely different look next year.
Well, we do see what goes wrong as well. When Cruiser goes down, you'd say the reserves aren't good enough to cope with it.
Yeah.
But you can see their average team PI strength. So a good example is Richmond at the moment. Their average is 3.6 per player for 130.
Yep.
So we're not too far away, given that our age and depth is totally different to Richmond. 2.4 per player for Carlton and 112 for the sake of 0.2. So not a bad position to be in. This would say that we are the 13th strongest side, TPI-wise.
Right.
So it shows you where we are as a team.
Interesting. So, this is the David Teague.
So this is what Teague's job is at the moment.
Okay, so having a look at our second coach.
Yep, so next we can see Mr. Scott.
Old mate Brad Scott. Tell me a little bit about, so this is his best year?
So 2014, it was where the list is the most comparable and where he made the 8. So
Got you.
He was in and around the 8 for all year this year.
Yep.
And we can see that average age of his defenders was actually younger than Carlton's.
Yeah, wow.
Which people forget. Their backline was really strong.
Yeah, there you go.
And you can see their average games as well, 20 less, which is ironically where ours goes when Kate Simpson retires. If one of them retires.
Absolutely, one of him or Daisy.
Yeah. And we see their TPI strength was quite low. They had 6 youngsters on their list who'd have played 5 games or less.
Yeah.
So they didn't really have much depth outside their first 6.
Right.
So it's a real stronger department for Carlton if he came here.
Yeah.
Now the midfield is where, like I said, usually you see this is where the most experienced is.
There's a difference right there. So we were at 3.2 average TPI for
so
the team right now. So there you go. There's the comparison, and 3 years older in terms of on average experience.
A lot of big older players.
That's quite stark, isn't it?
And you can see that's where anyone's going to have difficulty with Carlton. We'll see this as a common process.
Okay.
The match winners are usually your Jack Vineys, your 30-year-olds, 200 gamers, experience, Nathan Jones at Melbourne, players like that you look to. We don't have that at the moment.
Yep. So just go to here, team's TPI strength. So we've got one number dash another number.
Yeah.
What is that?
So we can see here that Carlton's was 2.43 per player.
Got you.
So you can see now this is where, when you look at a list makeup, the TPI per player fluctuates because they usually mix 10 top experienced players with lots of kids. Now Carlton, we've got everyone in the same age bracket just about.
Right.
So we've got actually a stronger team per player.
Yep.
And its depth, our squad is 10 more stronger. So that's a one good player stronger. So you think what North Melbourne could do? That would say to me, a couple of experienced signings, say like a Ben Cunnington, would bring Carlton's average age up.
Yep.
So a couple of players like that.
Especially
you could say,
that midfield.
Yeah, you'd say Scott has got the tools to recreate what he did at North.
That's the appeal with Scott, isn't it? It's the fact that he didn't have the kind of list at North Melbourne as what he would potentially have at Carlton.
You'd say that what Scott's done is had Carlton's list now forever.
Yep.
They've never really improved and got players in.
Yep.
Pollock's their big signing, but would Pollock be an excitable signing at a Geelong or a GWS? I don't think they'd get excited.
Okay. Righto, that's interesting. Let's have a look at coach number 3, Vossi. Now this, I mean, obviously I've got no idea, but if I had to guess, I'm going with Vossi. So tell me a bit. So this is, wait, you had to bring up the 09 Lions, didn't you? Had to be the Lions with Daniel Bradshaw kicking that absolute dagger in our hearts.
Well, the 09 Lions were an interesting concept, I thought.
Yeah.
Because it had probably 5 or 6 key players there who were probably over the hill or about to.
Yep.
And then he had an influx of kids. Like, you've got to remember the 09 year had some quality young players.
Yep.
But they were very raw, which I think is very similar to Carlton.
Yes.
Raw players.
Yep.
And players that probably shouldn't be playing because they're a bit too old.
Yeah.
They're on the way out. So we can see average age, we can see is a lot younger than Carlton's in the back line.
Yeah, definitely.
And look at that there, half the average game. So we know why Voss, people say he failed at Lions. The stats are telling us he had a very tough gig.
It's amazing what happens when you look deeper, how much context you can actually produce.
Predominantly, if you're going to build a team on TPI, you can get away with a young forward line.
Yeah.
But you need midfield and defence to have good age and good games played, because that's where the game's won and lost. Especially nowadays, transition from back line to midfield is where games are won. GWS, West Coast. If you haven't got the experience, it's not going to happen. And we can see as well midfield. We keep laughing at how young we are.
Yeah.
Look at what he had to work with.
Yeah, there you go.
And you think like some of the names that played for them back then.
Yeah.
You had Riscatelli.
Riscatelli flying around number 35, I remember that.
Like, it's crazy.
So they had so there was sort of like nothing in between. They had the elder statesmen and the babies.
Yeah, they have like, you've got to think as well, 09, Jonathan Brown, Fivolova.
Yeah.
He was an old man at that stage as well.
Yeah.
Experience and how young that core nucleus of the side was.
There you go.
Is really alarming. And you can see there, look, even with Fev and Brown.
Yep.
Now, their TPI strength stronger than ours, but look, age is almost identical with two elder statesmen.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird team when you look back on it now.
It was disjointed.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And I've been saying this for a while, Carlton's list is disjointed.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when you have Voss? And you can see there, look, at what he was working with. 1.39, which is way below Carlton.
Yeah.
And look at the strength of the team, half as strong as Carlton. So for me, Voss, he's my prime candidate personally.
Yep.
Port he knows how to work with young players, or probably the masters of it. I reckon he's better for the experience, and this list is twice as good as what he had.
Yeah, and look, it's true. He works very well with the young players, and you've got to look at their young players. I mean, you could say that they drafted very well and they got 4 gems and they've all slotted in, but 4 18-year-olds essentially, I think they're all 18 when they were drafted or thereabouts, have come into this Port Adelaide team, and they are a key part of this team now, and they're not getting dropped.
I think William Drew, case in point, drafted 2 years ago, didn't play a game at all last year, went to their version of VFL Sample, worked on his body, look at him now. Yeah. Like they benched him knowing he was a long-term project, didn't force him to play.
Interesting. Moving along, now this is the one that we I think deep in our hearts we want it to happen.
I think
but we'll
this next one, I think for me, this shows his ability, because he's not a coach per se. I think he's more an administrator. Yeah. He knows how this game's worked.
Talking about the master Paul Roos, who I love listening to talk about Carlton.
100%.
He just has this passion when he talks about the Blues, and I think that might add to the intrigue in bringing him on.
I think with Roos as well, he uses the average age.
Yep.
So when he moved to Roos, when he moved to Melbourne, when he moved to Sydney, he brought in older average players.
Yeah.
Because he needs to get that core nucleus up. And we can see here almost the same defence average age.
Yeah, very similar, isn't it?
Yeah, and because he had quite a few young players, we actually see his TPI strength go down.
Yep.
But that core nucleus of age is almost identical to where you want it to be.
Yep.
And the midfield, we can see now, you think of the midfield at that time, solid midfield.
Yeah, very solid.
Nathan Jones, he was, 3 years younger?
Yep.
You've got Viney.
Yep.
You've got Dom Tyson floating around, who he brought in.
Yep.
Then a young Brayshaw and a young Oliver.
Yep.
Solid midfield.
This is really the foundations of where they are now. And I mean, this is a very difficult year to judge Melbourne. We don't know what history is going to say. They may never come back, but you would have thought that they'll be back on track, everyone's healthy and whatnot. So this is probably, would you say this is where Carlton are now?
I'd say
then?
I'd say with some proper signings.
Yeah.
With 2 or 3, 25, 30, 100 game players.
Yeah.
I reckon Melbourne 16 is where Carlton would be ahead of.
Yeah.
I reckon they would be where Melbourne were last year.
Right.
With them signings.
And
the stats are saying that because look, same, almost identical team strength.
Yep.
As he walked into at Melbourne.
Yep. Interesting.
So to me, Roos Voss.
Yep.
Combination.
So Roos being the sounding board for Vossi in the coach's box.
I think Roos, doing that director of football.
Yeah.
Organising the back room, getting them to identify targets.
Looks pretty good in the Carlton jersey too, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
in a polo.
I reckon Roos and Voss give us the flag.
What do you think? What are your coaching options? I know that Clarko's another name that's been floated about. I don't think it's not happening.
I don't think
it's just not. I just don't think it's happening, and I don't think. Interestingly enough, Rats, I don't think it's happening either. Look, prove me wrong.
I don't think you should go back.
I don't agree. You got rid of him for a reason, and I remember the talk about Rats at the time. There was a lot of uproar, no plan B, etc. Look, there is an argument to be made that he's gone back and he's developed on those skills that he maybe didn't have back then. But again, for me, the Clarkson and the Ratten situations are nothing but a bit of a dream. Bit of a fantasy.
I'd agree with you, and I think also you remember that list he had. He had Prime Judd, Prime Fev, Prime Murphy.
Yeah.
He had players we don't have anymore.
Yeah, that's very true. So let us know, comments below. Let's have a discussion about it, and